And for the first time on Tuesday night, we are getting ready to experience some high Octane Racing. This is the Integrity Racing League, and this is the Integrity Octane Series and their own Media Day Clash. 100 miles, 40 laps, the same formula as last night with a twist. We're using the NASCAR Cup Series machines, and right now, some packs are already on their way, getting some experience before we head to battle once again at the World Center of Racing, Daytona International Speedway. We get the timing and scoring charts on your screen as it stands. It looks like the Dirty Six of Jacob Fife has the edge over the remainder of the field, and the remainder of these guys are still getting lined up in packs for the first time tonight, and they are moving right now at a speed of about 190 miles an hour down the back straightaway. And we are getting geared up for a great show. As you can see, 3 wide there, and it looks like a bit of a wiggle for the 98 machine, and the 98 of Jeff Figlin able to hold on for just a moment there. Now he's going to have a little less pressure. As you can see, coming to the stripe, the 98 is going to be moved around and taken out of the pack, but they still go on. Cody Griffin now going to be in the middle of it, and it looks like the 18 machine of Cody Smith is leading the way here in this run. 9th on the charts right now, and it looks like he's about half a second off of the best lap of 46.071, or rather 701, as we get this thing started with less than half an hour of action in practice before we get to qualifying and eventually the race to kick off this series in its preseason event. We're there. Here we go. And we got 2 guys with us who are going to be helping out with the commentary. Drivers from the Ignite Series, not racing tonight. We got to thank Thomas Bressi and Casey Shue for stopping by and providing their insight on tonight's event. We got both of them in the booth, so I'm going to pass it on to Bressi. First, 3rd position in the Clash last night. So the next gen, same track, same length, so a lot of similar features, but of course, one big change. How it will be for these guys to adapt as the night goes on.
Not to mention as well, because these next-gen cars have the much wider tires than the Xfinity Series cars, or even the trucks for that matter, the bumps that you can make can be a lot more aggressive. You can be pretty forceful because the cars have, has a lot more grip. So you're going to be able to see people being pretty forceful with their pushes. We're seeing some of that right now here with the 11 and the 18 leading that high lane. And you see they can stay pretty tucked up. And that's the other thing as well. These Cup cars, they'll heat up pretty quickly. That's obviously something you always got to pay attention to in these plate races, is the engine temps, that oil and water temp. You've got to keep them in check, otherwise the night's going to end early for you. And although these cars, they seem to heat up pretty quickly, you can cool them down pretty quickly as well. So you can be very aggressive at times for little short bursts, and then take a quick second to kind of recoup and get yourself back together, and you can get right back after it. Not to mention all the other usual sort of suspects in terms of things you got to worry about with these plate races. That, Casey's a great plate racer. Doesn't always have the luck to go with it, but definitely someone that understands kind of the ins and outs of these plate races.
Yeah. Again, thank you for having us on here. But yeah, my luck on these plate races in the past couple years has not been great, and it has not been kind to me. But I still enjoy plate racing because it's just an act and a dance. You hear the people in the world broadcast talk about dancing with each other, tango, dancing partners, and everything else. This league is different than most leagues in this series. I think Thomas was talking a little bit earlier today about there's not really many teams and teammates in this series as there was last night. I know myself and Thomas and even Cody Griffin in this race tonight are all on teams, and we kind of have that to fall back on in terms of plate racing. We can always kind of trust each other to be there, and we have somebody that we can trust to push. These guys tonight, I've been looking at the list. There's not too many there's many one-car teams, not as many two-car teams. So you're going to have to try to find your dancing partner and find people that you can trust. Some people might not be good at pushing, and others might be not good at taking a push. I know last night I got some damage repaired after the first caution, and I was stuck with the people that I couldn't get back to the front. I know I tried to push some guys, and they were squirrely, and they couldn't receive a bump, and I wasn't comfortable doing that because I didn't want to start a wreck in the back of the pack. And then there was also some guys that got behind me that weren't able to really push me up there. So, but this car, like Thomas said, is a little bit different. You can kind of do a little more on your own with the side draft and the runs you can get. So you don't have to be dependent on everybody else. Another thing is something to look forward to if we get to be graced by is the dancing of green flag pit stops, because that's always fun to watch on a plate track. Everybody coming down from 200 miles an hour down to, I believe, Thomas, is it 55?
60 here.
60. Either way, going from 200 to 60, multiple cars pitting, communication's key. You know, being perfect is something to do. I know we practiced it last night on our own. So there's just many things to look forward to in a plate race that you don't get to really see normally at a normal track, say Charlotte. You're pitting by yourself. You're kind of just running on your own little pace. Here, you're at the mercy of everybody else, and you know we're always looking for that one big one. Is it going to happen up early like it did last night? We had two big ones. One happened on lap 5 and one happened on lap 33. So that's always a unknown of when and where it could happen. And you know, hopefully we can see some guys make some really cool saves as you did last night, Thomas.
Yeah, well, still don't know how I did that, and that's probably, in the words of Captain Jack Sparrow, did everybody see that? Because I will not be doing it again.
Well, that's one way to put that incredible save. And of course, different cars, the Xfinity Series we saw last night in the next gen, as we've been focusing on a lot of a different package in this racing. Sam Nita right now, top of the charts. We saw him go 3 wide just a bit and use the side draft to his advantage. He was in the back of the pack, went by himself up front, and while this pack is slowly but surely losing its members, as everyone seems to be going for single car runs now, these guys up front, let's say like a 5 or 6 car pack, they're still moving with one another, trying to find out how this car handles. When it comes to handling characteristics, how do you both of you interpret it compared to the Xfinity machines?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, you know, it depends a lot on, you know, kind of who you're running with at the time. I mean, and that's kind of what these guys are figuring out now. I mean, of course it's practice, so people are just kind of, I don't want to say messing around, but you're definitely a little less serious with what you're doing, and you're just trying to see, you know, what runs you can take, what you can't, and you're pushing your luck. But it teaches you things like we just saw right there with the 2 and the 18 there, that little nudge on that left rear quarter panel. They talk about it all the time in real life, and it's the same here on iRacing. Just sometimes you can kind of get away with it, and most of the time you kind of can't. So just learning like what you can do with certain people. Sometimes some people are kind of good at hanging in certain spots and other people not so much. So all you're doing right now is, you know, kind of pushing the boundaries and figuring out what you can get away with later when it really counts.
Yeah, and another thing that's different with these cars than I would say with the Xfinity cars, as we were in last night, is the steering pinion instead of the box. I believe and I feel like the natural steering pinion setting for these cars are more to the 16-to-1 for the Xfinity car, and it's a little more loose for me. I know I'm not able to run 16-to-1. I know Thomas and a bunch of other teammates run it every single week, and I envy them because I hear that's how you save tire a lot easier. But for myself, I like it a little tighter steering. It's more reactive response. Just a general opinion for myself. So I find myself changing the Cup car's pinion more than I do the box for the Xfinity car to make it more tighter. Yeah, I feel that it's just it's looser to start out with the steering.
And handling a big part of Daytona, whether it is the steering pinion or whether it is getting a push from a guy behind you. We see these guys right now are getting a bit squirrely as they are, of course, testing the boundaries of Daytona International Speedway and the way these cars handle it. So when it comes to Daytona, track temperature seems to be a big factor. We talked a bit pre-race about how it looks like Monday night's race was a bit warmer on the track temperature side. iRacing is able to simulate the characteristics of warmer tracks and colder tracks. So how will the track temperature warming up affect these guys as they go on larger packs and potentially much quicker speeds than what we're seeing right now?
Yeah, I think definitely that does play a factor. I think it looks like right now it's probably a little bit cooler than what it was last night. Right now we're showing an ambient temperature of 79 degrees. I think last night we were kind of in the mid 80s. And I think you probably see a little bit less of an impact with these next-gen Cup cars in terms of handling, again, with the much wider tires. And we've even seen, just watching these guys run laps in the packs and pushing and stuff, there's guys that get out of shape, but they can actually sort of catch it. Whereas generally, if you get sideways in the Xfinity cars or something like that, you're not going to catch it. So I don't know if it'll have a huge impact on the handling aspect, but I know one of the things, like you alluded to when we were talking pre-race about the temperatures, was the engine temps. Again, something we touched on at the beginning of this broadcast as well. Last night, at least for us drivers, we found it really difficult to push or stay close to the guy in front of you without getting really, really hot, really, really fast. It seemed like we were almost overheating much faster than you typically do in those cars. And I think the general consensus was that it was probably due to the increased ambient temp. So again, just based on where we are right now, of course, we're early afternoon. So as we get into qualifying in the race, it'll probably be a little warmer as we get later in the day. So we may see that change a little bit, but again, handling wise, I think it's probably not going to be too much of a factor, but I think the engine temps and seeing how aggressive these guys can be pushing and in the pack is going to be where it's a little more critical.
Yeah, I think like Thomas just said, the main thing that's going to be a problem is just being a little bit warmer. You're going to be slipping and sliding around a little bit more. And I know it's kind of funny to be at a plate track and talk about slipping and sliding, but here especially, not so much at Talladega. It's a little bit more worn out. The Florida sun, the very harsh winter or harsh summers. I don't know if I said winter there, guys, but
East Coast thing.
You see a beautiful picture of three wide racing. We saw it a little bit last night. You see it in real life. You see it in a lot of league races here, and it's a beautiful thing to watch when it's done right. But the fact is, it's very hard to do that because when you're three wide, you don't really have inches to give the person next to you, especially in that middle. And I know once tires wear out, especially when it's warmer, the car going into turn 3 more so than any other corner, because that's the fastest you're going to be going. It likes to tend to shift up off the yellow line a little bit, so that might be something to look for if we get into a long green flag run tonight. I don't know what the temperature is going to be at the drop of the green flag, but if we can start getting to that 20 lap range, start looking for guys to not be able to hold the line going into turn 3. Because Thomas, you can back me up if I'm wrong or anything. That's where I feel the problem at this track is, especially in the sim, people start to move up off that yellow line going into turn 3 as the run progresses because they have less grip, especially with the warmer temperatures.
Now, as we conclude the topic of warmer temperatures, it looks like a few guys are going to come down on pit road and practice their entries in. And as we mentioned, there is a possibility of having some green flag pit stops. Now, as it stands, I don't believe we will be getting one if we follow the same process of the wrecks we had early on in last night's race. Tonight, it's possible. The first wreck came due to netcode, so it's always a possibility on iRacing, but nonetheless, these guys have proven to be pretty clean. Of course, everyone's just shaking the dust off of their driving ability and how they move these cars at Daytona. A very, very tight super speedway compared to the likes of Talladega. A little bit less room, and of course, the temperature might come into mind, and see if these guys do get squirrely off of the third turn, entering to the final stretch. So aggression might run a little bit higher. In that case, guys are going to be pushing a little bit further than their usual limit. As we see a few guys go down a pit row, how important will strategy be if we go all the way on green flag run?
Yeah, I mean, the strategy is always important. And again, like Casey was talking about, you got to know who you can work with. And I think one of the things, like, and again, this is another thing we were talking about before we came on air, here in the Octane series, the team sizes are a lot smaller than what we see over in the Ignite series. There's teams in the Ignite series that have 4, 5, even 6 drivers in some cases. I think the biggest team that we have here in the Octane series is, I think, 3 drivers on one team. So I think it's going to be a little bit more dynamic in terms of people trying to find people they can pit with. Because I mean, we've all seen it in league races, in real racing. It's a death sentence if you pit by yourself. You've got to have somebody that's got a good car underneath them, no damage, things like that, and is more or less at least on the same strategy as you in terms of whatever the pit stop is going to be. Because you may not always pit for 4 tires. You might only take fuel. You might take right sides and 1 can of gas or something like that. But it's critical that you come down pit road with people calmly, of course, and you don't want to be running people over. You got to make sure you're kind of in the right lane so that once you're all on pit road, you're not crossing over people and tripping over people trying to get into your pit box. And then you leave together so that way you can get back out on the racetrack and up to speed as quickly as possible. So that stuff always, always, always is critical. And again, if we get to that point, of course, we had a few cautions last night to where we didn't see that. Now, if we don't tonight, I'm almost certain that we will next week. But, and usually I think in these races where, I don't want to say you're kind of lone wolfing it, but you maybe don't have a lot of teammates to kind of rely on or work with or something, and you're just finding your friends where you can. You sort of might hear somebody like half a lap before they pit that says, hey, I'm pitting this time. And then you might get a couple more people like, well, if he's pitting, I'm going to pit. And, well, they're going to pit, I guess I'll pit too. And then you get a whole bunch of people. And that sometimes is where you see some of the chaos break out on that pit entry that so often can lead to the wreck itself that many people try to avoid at these tracks.
Yeah, just go off what you said right there. I think the biggest thing, a part of the pit sequence that's overlooked is the communication. I told Thomas before I wasn't going to bring this up because it has nothing to do with NASCAR, but we had our own little communication oof in our Rolex race. Just it shows it kind of proved to me that everybody will miscommunicate at some point, because normally on the endurance racing side we kind of have our ducks in a row and have gotten to where we expect good finishes, but it just kind of shows me and proved to me how crucial communication is. Like TV said, there's going to be many guys just randomly calling out, hey, I'm pitting. And as much as, hey, I'm pitting and you want to pit with this guy, the whole field realistically can't pit at the same time. It's going to be chaos. There's going to be cars everywhere. So communication is going to be very key tonight if they get to the green flag pit stops, which I really hope they do, because I love seeing it. And I hate being a part of it, but I love seeing it. So I wanted them to get to it because I want to see, how they kind of work this out. Start getting single file about 2 or 3 laps before everybody starts pitting, and then see how they all kind of navigate with each other. See if they can find their dancing partners and tango partners, and just kind of come down pit road calmly. Or you never know, somebody might want to barrel it down in there and try to pick up a few spots, and that's where impending chaos can happen on pit road and more contact. So the pit sequence is my favorite thing to see at a plate track. So I really hope we get to see it tonight.
And the other thing worth adding, David, as well, is with these next-gen cars, of course, one of the big changes was the brake package. So these guys have huge brakes on these cars compared to the Xfinity Series cars that we had last night. So if you do get those green flag stops, you can be really aggressive trying to get on pit road. But how greedy do you really want to be? Do you want to play it sort of safe? Do you really think you can squeak out that extra little bit to try and make a little bit of time? Or do you risk throwing it all away, perhaps, just trying to get that extra little bit?
That extra little bit, a lot of these guys will be chasing. We see a big pack coming out of pit road right now. So guys are getting to learn each other's strategies. And we mentioned strategy when it comes to pit road. If you do have to pit green, you don't want to pit alone. But how do people build trust in these races? And how do you see who's worth following, who's not worth following as the race goes on?
Yeah, I mean, I'll say user discretion is probably the best way to put that. I mean, it's just, you find yourself around different people. Like in the race last night, Casey and I were in totally different zip codes. I stuck up front most of the night. He was, I think, kind of mid-pack and a little further back, trying to hang out and miss the wreck, and unfortunately it didn't really work out. But I couldn't really told, like there were people that he mentioned that he's like, hey, this person's pretty decent to work with, or hey, I'm not so sure about this person. And I said the same thing, but at the end of the day, it's kind of up to your own interpretation if what you're comfortable with. So you really have to play it by ear. And the best way to kind of earn the trust of your fellow drivers is to sort of, is by doing. If you can push people to the lead, if you're not throwing crazy blocks that are going to get the whole field wrecked, which I almost did last night, but we'll gloss over that. But doing stuff like that and showing that you're competent in, your own car and where you are on the racetrack and what kind of runs you can or can't build and when and with who, that's all the stuff that you can kind of put in the good noodle jar, if you will, for everybody else. Because the more friends you can make, at least at the start or in the first half of the race, the more friends you've got, more dancing partners you have to work with later in the race. Now, the one other thing you got to keep in mind, you don't want to be maybe too nice is probably a way to put it, because then you may have people looking at it and you're like, well, he's probably not going to push the issue. He'll just stick in line behind me. Or if I get a run on him, he'll just, he's not going to fight me for it or anything like that. So you have to show that you really know what you're doing and kind of belong in the mix, and you can make the right moves at the right time for more people to want to work with you.
Absolutely right about that. A lot of trust in this game, and you got to see who's the right one to work with. And Casey, I believe you have something to say. You can go on from there. We're in a visual intermission trying to make sure that everything is working out on the viewer's end. Keep going from here on out. We still have the commentary live on FTN.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to step over you, but I was going to kind of throw my teammate last night kind of under the bus, going off what Thomas was saying, how viewer discretion is advised. We have one teammate, not going to say who, has a nice broken hand, so I wasn't as comfortable pushing him last night or him being behind me, because as we all know, driving one hand is not as stable as driving with two hands. And then on the other hand, during practice, I think there was one lap where I pushed Thomas all the way through the corner, and I didn't get off his bumper, and we didn't think anything of it. We just were like,
it was fine.
Hey, we'll put that in the bank, and if we're hooked up, I'm not going to think twice about pushing Thomas through that the whole corner. But yeah, it's just working with people throughout the years. I know there's many people that we're not going to name names because we're not going to give away their secrets. We kind of just expect a 3-wide move here and a 3-wide move there. Watch enough of the broadcasts, and I'm sure the viewers and you'll start to see those people that we might think of putting it 3-wide. But we just figuring out who's aggressive and who's kind of passive, and then just kind of lining that up to the point of the race. Do you want to follow this person now? Do you want to follow this? Let them go and hope that it doesn't come back to haunt you. I know last night I missed a prime. I had one chance to get to the front, and that was to follow Stroll through a hole, and I wasn't aggressive enough, and I paid the price for it, because at that point there was nobody else that I could work with around me that I felt safe enough and comfortable enough pushing that can take a push to get to the front. So at that point, I was just at the mercy of just kind of being at the back of the pack. And just at that point, my plan changed from getting up there at TB, because that was my original plan, was, hey, I'm going to go and get up there with TB. Then I missed my chance. So then I was just trying to have to change my plan on the fly, because I didn't have that trust in everybody else. So trust is key here, if you ask me.
And it seems to be key right now as we see some guys going smaller packs. The bigger pack that we were focusing on earlier, it's broken up. And right now, Sam Nito with a similar group of guys. We saw him with the 18 machine of Cody Smith before. They're back together in tandem once again with 5 minutes and 11 seconds remaining on the clock. The final runs before qualifying gets started here. And when it comes down to it, these multi-car runs don't really matter in terms of qualifying pace. So how important is it to get multi-car runs and compared to the single car runs? And do you think at the end of the day, if you're better at a multi-car run, you'll have a better chance of winning the race? Or is it vice versa? Does qualifying matter more when it comes to getting a higher grid position and staying up there? Or do you just run aggressive in the race and try to make it happen from there?
I think the qualifying is very, at least in terms of how much you care about it or where you're going to actually start the race, is totally dependent on what your strategy is going to be. For me, last night, it was kind of important for me to start up front. I mean, obviously it's Daytona. To an extent, it's kind of a crapshoot, but I was fortunate to start, I think, third or something. I was on like the second or third row. Either way, I was near the front, and that was my plan, was I wanted to stay up front all night. But I do think that the multi-car runs that we're seeing in practice are really important. And I think kind of what we were just talking about with kind of finding your friends and who you can trust to work with, I would really be watching this 2-car of Sam Nito. I'd be watching this 97 of Nicholas Ward. I'd be watching this 18 of Cody Smith, because those three guys have been seemingly sort of tied at the hip for most of this practice, I would not be the least bit surprised to see those guys working together in the race. And if they do, you can trace it back to practice here, because we're seeing them work well together. We've seen they know how to push, they know how to manage, the gaps and things like that to keep them, moving along at a good pace here when they need to. And even when there's other cars out there with them, they still seem to sort of stick together. So I would be watching, like, you kind of start seeing some of those groups develop, which is why I think, like we said before, practice, you're not always taking it as seriously, because, it's Daytona. You're just seeing what you can get away with. But you do start learning who you can work with, who you maybe don't want to work with, and you see it right away in practice. Now, the other thing I would also mention in regards to who you want to work with and things like that is, of course, it's not going to matter tonight. There's no points on the line, of course, but later in the year, you may see people in certain points positions that are maybe a little more precarious, where they come into these races and they need to be aggressive. So we might see people work together tonight that may not want to work together next week when there's points on the line, or there's people that are going to work together tonight and next week because, they might work together next week thinking tonight went well, for instance. And then we come back to another plate race later in the season when everybody's kind of got their own picture going on for the points, and we're further into the year and you're trying to actually battle for those spots. Is not like just, well, we'll finish the first race and see where we are. That you may find new people to work with, or people you don't want to work with as well. So I would definitely, the multi-car runs here in these practices, in my opinion, are absolutely critical. And that's, at least for me, I'll go run out and do a mock qualifying run just by myself, because why not, to start a practice session at a plate track, and then I'm only in the groups from that point forward.
Yeah, I think both is very critical for different reasons. It just depends, like Thomas said. He likes to be up front at the beginning of the race, and last night that was my plan as well. But apparently I have lost whatever qualifying touch I had from a couple of years ago, and I started mid-pack. So if you're wanting to be up front, I would say qualifying is very crucial, because that's the least amount of moves you got to make to get up there, because Daytona realistically is about a 2-lane racetrack comfortably, especially in the sim racing, with all the netcode possibilities. 2 wide's about as comfortable as you're going to get. 3 wide's doable, but at that point you're at the mercy of internet connections and netcode. But like Thomas said, being in a pack, it's crucial in practice. I know every time we're at a plate track, we'll be sitting there, we'll be goofing off. If you look at us on practice, you're like, oh, Casey and Thomas are spinning. Oh, that whole team's, there's a 6-car pileup, JTM. But in the meantime, while we're, joking off, figuring out what we can do, we also are, putting mental notes of car numbers. I'll pick on, let's see who we got here. One of these cars, I think the 22, if we saw him try to push somebody and then they wrecked, Thomas would be like, all right, the 22 car just doesn't know how to push. And at that point, it's up to that 22 car to gain our trust back, either by us seeing something or just him racing around us. So practice at plate tracks, as much as people play around, it's also a really big learning curve to find out, especially with this being the very first race of the season. You can kind of get a gauge on your competition and who you can trust throughout the whole entire year.
And as the whole entire year sets the stage for itself here at Daytona, practice is over, and the man on top is Sam Nito in the 2 machine, and things are going to get started from here. Time for qualifying, and let's see who the best is here for 2 timed laps at Daytona, 5 miles. And qualifying strategy, it seems to be cut and dry. You want to run 1 lap up high and 1 lap down low, pushing it as hard as you can. So how is it going for the drivers in their heads? So they're going to run it up high, go for 2 aggressive laps. What benefits who, and how will it work out in the race, and how their strategies go? Does it even impact them at all if they do it a different qualifying strategy, or does it all come down to how fast they are and making slight adjustments? I know we do have a fixed setup, but some adjustments can be made. So what matters more, and when will it pay off or not pay off for these drivers?
Yeah, I mean, and definitely, and you were talking about qualifying strategy there. One of the things that we don't have the luxury of in the Xfinity cars in the Ignite series with these Cup cars, you've got an extra gear to work with. And personal experience here, at least this week, I'm not totally certain, but There's some guys that'll say, hey, you should just run in fourth gear. There's guys that only go in fifth gear, or there's maybe different ways to kind of carry that speed. At least right now, I'm looking at Cody Smith. He's taking his time on his outlap. I feel like a lot of people might be up to speed a lot faster. He's only doing 106 right now, so he's just kind of cruising around there, just hanging out right now. So there's different ways to go about it, because you may say, well, I just want to go for, try and keep my tire temps down as much as I can and go really have a good second lap or something. You also see where he's running on the racetrack. You talked about running up high on that first lap. You come down to the bottom for that second lap. And of course, now he's starting to build speed. So that's probably what he's doing, is trying to keep some of that tire temp down for a second timed lap that's going to be really fast here. But you don't want to be right up on that wall, because the wall actually seems to drag you back a little bit. So you kind of have to watch that aero bubble. You definitely want to be up high to kind of have a little more time to wind the car up, carry that momentum leading into your second fast lap. But you don't want to be way, way up there at the top of the racetrack on the board. So it's entirely, again, it's up to the driver. You're going to see guys not qualify too. If there's guys that are like, my strategy's hang at the back. I know our teammate Cody Griffin, after last night, as soon as the race was over, he was like, I know what I'm doing tomorrow night. I'm hanging at the very back. So he might still qualify, I'm not sure, but you may see guys intentionally run a slow lap so they're not at the back, but they're maybe like the 2/3, 3/4 mark of the field. So they're not up in the mix. Try to avoid the big one, whatever their strategy might be. But there's a lot of ways to go about it. It's really just driver preference and what your game plan is for the rest of the night.
And a great point to mention there, as we still watch the driver, the 87 machine of Joe Yakes. He was 6th on the board that time by, and is going to go down to the apron trying to make something happen. Here he should be able to gain just a bit of a position back, maybe 2, and it looks like now not able to improve all too much. Goes from 5th, from 6th, as a matter of fact, and now he's going to be dropped down a bit, as it looks like top of the board. It is Nicholas Ward in the 97 machine with Don Stevenson in 2nd, but now it looks like Sam Nito back to the top of the board once again, and he has been moving. That number 2 machine looks to be one of the guys you can trust all race along, as we continue to watch guys who are on their first or second lap. It looks like Boomer Logan and the 94 machine going to be on his way. This is his first timed lap, and coming down the stripe with a minute and a half remaining, it looks like the 94 machine is going to put together a 50-second flat lap, and not one of the quickest laps so far. It's going to put him in about the middle of the pack. He still has a bit more time to get one better lap in, and it looks like he will be able to use just about all the time there is remaining. David Mayberry puts it into 12th. Brandon Zimmerman in 11th. Matt Jonas looks to be done in 13th at the moment. Cody Griffin on his way right now looks to be staying in the back of the pack. He's on pit road. And it looks like Jeff Figlin, 98 machine, still on his way as well. The 98, and Tom Wetmore in a similar spot coming through the 3rd turn, as it looks like Figlin coming out of the 2nd. Looks like Guillermo Alvarez is going to be coming down to the stripe for his first time lap. Farrell Ryan done with 2 time laps, and the 93 machine looks to be able to go all the way up into the top 15 on the board in 14th. Boomer Logan going to be able to take it up into 6th. And Sam Nito, one of the guys to trust here, is 4th on the board. He's a total of 5 1,000ths of a second off of the pole position. 3rd is Alan Dobbs in the 05 machine. He's 4 thousandths off. Caitlin Haight is now 3 thousandths off. But it looks like, when all is said and done, it will be Cody Smith top of the board provisional poll as it stands. So how do we get a word with the man in that 18 machine? See if he's available for comment. It looks like he will be available for comment. So let's try to get him dragged in here and see how he's feeling after his qualifying run. Try to get him in at the moment, see when he's going to be able to drop in, and when we get him, get that first interview in of the night, because it looks like it will be all said and done for the driver of the 18 machine, and Cody Smith will be your pole sitter for tonight's event, the Clash 100 miles and 40 laps, and you'll be the man who leads us off into this race. So how do you feel after that qualifying run?
Yeah, just go in, hold it to the floor and try to turn the wheels as little as possible. Not a whole lot to this place, but it's cool to start up front. I'm sure there'll be a lot of coming and going, even though it's a pretty short race, but the draft's so big, you get huge runs, but should be a fun show at least.
And certainly should be a fun show. Now, up front, you mentioned that coming and going will be a very important factor in this race. So, how are you going to run it? Are you going to be conservative? Or are you going to be aggressive, try to keep yourself up front, or just see how it plays out and go from there?
Yeah, I tend to try to. I like the aggressive strategy. I know with this being a race with no points on the line, this is kind of just win it or checkers or wreckers at this point. Try to keep it clean and get it to the end. But definitely be aggressive. The goal is going to be to stay up front as much as I can. So, yep, that's the plan at least. It can always change.
How about it? Well, this is the first race of the season, not a points-paying race. The first points-paying race will be at Daytona as well. So how important is tonight in figuring out these drivers, figuring out how the car works with the track, and eventually setting up strategy for the season opener coming up very, very soon?
Yeah, for sure. It's very important. I mean, the big shows that are here in a couple of weeks. So the goal is to win that one. So every build that iRacing has, they usually the cars change a little bit. So this is the first time I've raced a plate track on this build particularly. So we'll see what happens. Like I said, we're going to try to test as much out as we can. Tried to do the same thing during practice, but it seems like you can push pretty good, and the cars you don't automatically wreck with contact. So. Again, should be fun. Should be an entertaining race. I imagine it to be very competitive. There'll be a lot of going front to back, kind of like you see in real life. So excited for it.
And certainly Daytona always bringing great action back and forth you're expecting, but anything else you expect as we have about 2 minutes and 40 seconds remaining on the charts here in warm-up. Any final thoughts before tonight's race begins?
Yeah, I mean, cars seem to get a little edgy through the run, so that's something to watch out for. I fully expect it. It seemed to be kind of if we got lined up at the top, it's kind of hard to pass. So you may even see the top line come in as well. But yeah, other than that, just we'll see what happens and see if we can be there at the end.
Absolutely. Pole sitter for the first event of this season, the Octane Clash. It's Cody Smith, top of the charts. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, man.
And there we have it. That is Cody Smith in the 18 machine. Now we're going to get through your starting grid with 1 minute and 58 seconds remaining here in warm-up. Right now, top of the board in warm-up is Matt Johnson. He's right there with Ross Cato, so not a lot of guys out on the track getting stuff done. But as it stands, Cody Smith, the man who got a lot done, and the driver of that 18 machine, top of the board with a 50.078 in the pole position, and 3 thousandths off. Caitlin Haight was in that second spot. Third, going to be Alan Dobbs, and he was only 1,000th off from there. And Sam Nito, 2 thousandths off the pole position, or rather third, 5 1,000ths of a second off a pole for the man in the 4th spot. Very intense, very close drivers in that top 4. Then Ross Cato in 5th, William Logan, Boomer Logan in the 6th spot with a 50.111. 7th is going to be Jeff Figlin. 8th is going to be Nicholas Ward with a 50.124. And then Don Stevenson in 9th and Nick Terabutch to round out your top 10. AJ Muselman is going to be in the 11th spot with a 50.135. And Brandon Zimmerman is going to be in 12th with the 13th and 14th drivers of David Mayberry and Matt Jonas. Then, rounding at your top 15, it's Farrell Ryan in the 50.172 lap setter. The 93 going to be right beside John Steele with a 50.183 for the 22. Joe Yakes, Tom Whitmore, 17th and 18th, and it looks like Guillermo Alvarez will be the first driver to qualify on iRating in 19th. Jacob 520th, then Jay Haishman, Cody Griffin, Michael Kuczynski, Jorge Canales, and Alan Rowell, Jim Fife, and it looks like that will be it, besides Chris Edwards and Luis Caballero. Then the 29 car field going to bring us back to the top of the board where Cody Smith is. And his warm-up is concluding. We have a 29 car field getting ready to take the green flag here in the Daytona International Speedway, and we are especially excited to see it happen. A lot of great drivers, some guys facing these guys for the first time, some experienced veterans of this group, and they all come and clash for the first time here. 40 lap event. And before we get this thing started, any final thoughts for you guys as we get this one rolling?
No, just the kind of these initial green flag laps. You can tell real quick on if it's going to be a very chaotic race or it's going to be a calm race. They can get single file real quick, or they can do what we did last night and go 3 wide within the first 2 laps. So I think that's just kind of the thing to watch out for at the beginning, is just to kind of see everybody trying to find their tango partner for the rest of the night.
Yeah, and how quickly do some of the people that were working together in practice try to find each other? Because again, like when we were watching in practice, we were watching the 18, the 2, the 97. Those guys were working together a lot. They got a couple cars between them, at least here, rolling off the grid, but they're not that far apart. There's a good chance they'll try and find each other pretty quickly. And I guarantee you, if they can, at least based on what Cody was talking about when we just spoke to him, he's probably going to try to keep that car up in the wind.
And it looks like right now we have an Audi on front row with that 11 machine. How about the custom work done to the 11 paint scheme? We're going to take a quick look at it because we got a request in the chat from Froba Fett to take a look at some paint schemes. So how about that 11? An eye catcher for sure. So we try to get a proper camera on it. And it looks like there we have it. It's going to be the Audi e-tron machine there for Caitlin Haight, as it looks like drivers already putting it through the gears, and here we go. Let's put it back to the grid camera as we roll off for the first time in the next gens. Front row is already on its way, and the remainder of the field is there to follow. You can see Stevenson, you can see Steele, David Mayberry. It looks like an Amico throwback there. Tom Wetmore. It's going to be Jacob and Jim Fife going off at similar intervals there. Same paint scheme, inverted numbers, and the field on its way. The final few drivers, including Luis Caballero and Chris Edwards. And there they go. Everyone is off a pit road and everyone is getting set for the first laps of the season. Well, it's an off-season event, but still the same group of drivers and the same talent going into the same track is where our points-paying startup is going to be Daytona International Speedway. And what a better time. I don't think there's any better time to get to grips with this track than on a Tuesday night for the first time this year, and we're in for a lot of surprises. Do you guys have any final predictions about who's going to surprise us, what we expect or what we don't expect going into this event? We have half a lap before we get to the pace car conclusion.
I'm sorry about that, but I'm looking for, not that he's my teammate, but Cody Griffin, real life racer, so he's a little bit more competent in himself that maybe others might be. So I'm really looking forward to see him picking his way up through the field tonight.
You sure he's going to do that? Are you positive? Okay, well, we'll see. No, but I'm putting my money on the 18. I know he's on the pole, and that doesn't always work itself out for these plate races, but he looked great in practice, looked like he made a lot of the right moves. Going to be one to watch, mark my words.
And we will see two predictions in the books here on the pace car. Going to be the final driver to get off of the track. Looks like the field of 29 is all together for the start of this one. The first time this season on a Tuesday night, we go green. This is the Octane Media Day Clash 100, and we're underway here at Daytona. The 18 going to be able to get a great start there. Caitlin Haight going to be able to hold on as well. Alan Dobbs in third there, and Sam Nito trying to get up there with his practice partners as he's still in the top four, but it looks like Caitlin going to be losing a lot of steam. That outside line is fading back and fading back fast. The inside has a big advantage, led by Cody Smith. We got a few guys in the chat right now. Looks like it's going to be Nancy Wetmore saying, "Go Tommy," and Night Fallen coming in. Let's go. 05 machine of Alan Dobbs. That's my man. Well, let's see how these guys do. Dobbs right now second on the board, and Wetmore got a lot of room to make up, but still a lot of time for him, as it's still by the inside line, a dominating line with Cody Smith looking to be the clear favorite to get there for the first time. This time coming down to the stripe, it will be for Cody Smith. A lap led, and we're already underway. A lot of double file action in the back of the pack, and everyone holds on quite nicely. Looks like the inside is starting to pull away.
Yeah, I'm surprised that the outside didn't hang there quite as well in the restart. I figured it looked like they might have a chance to come back at it, because yes, they had lost some of that initial ground, but they were stacked together really well. Oh, we got a wreck. The 47's around.
And the yellow flag's already going to be out there. Looks like Stevenson might be able to hold it on. Nope.
Oh.
And that's going to get much worse. Stevenson, and that's the first wreck of this off-season event and the first wreck of the year on a Tuesday night for the Octane Series. Let's get a better look at what happened there, and we're already trying to get a replay. Looks like Stevenson might have got it sent around, and that's the type of bump we were talking about before the race began.
Yeah, it just looks like a little nudge, just kind of got hooked on that left rear just a little bit right as the car's unloading off the exit of turn 2 there from the 11. All it takes, these Cup cars have a lot more grip than the Xfinity cars do, but man, it still doesn't take a whole lot to get them sideways. And a lot of these guys did a great job checking up, trying to avoid. And then unfortunately, the 24 just tried to slip through a hole, nowhere to go, and the 47 came down and right into the door there.
And absolutely not a great situation for the 24. And apologies there. Casey, go on as we get the live feed back up.
I was just going to touch, like, I think that's what we just saw. It's an unfortunate event for the drivers that were involved, but it's also a testament to the iRacing service and how just realistic the physics are. I can't tell you how many times I've seen a wreck look like that at Daytona in real life. So I think that's just a job well done on making this as realistic as we can for us people at home to enjoy the services of iRacing.
And absolutely what a service iRacing is. If you want to join the fun, our referral code is in the description, and you can use it whenever to join a membership. We recommend the 3-month code PR-HOTLAPS. 3 months, $5, and it ends up supporting the channel. We've used referral donations, so to speak, as a way to boost the channel, get more tracks, get more content, and make better streams for every viewer at home. As we have a lot of guys doing it down on pit road, and it looks like it's going to be led off by Alan Dobbs, and Dobbs can be the first man through on this yellow, 3 laps in out of 40. Not a great angle there. It looks like pit road not shown all too well by the main TV camera, so let's try to get a better look, as it looks like Alan Dobbs will miss his pit stall there. He is on pit road with a multitude of other drivers, and he's already out on his way, and Dobbs going to be coming back onto the track, as Cody Smith is still your leader, 4 laps in out of 40. Ross Cato is now in second, and Jeff Figlin is in the 3rd position, followed by David Mayberry, Joe Yakes, Boomer Logan, and Tom Wetmore. Michael Kaczynski is in the 8th spot right now, and as we go down through the field, it looks like the driver of the 36 machine, and Jacob Fife, is in position. Actually, it looks like he's going to be in the 13th spot, according to timing and scoring, now down into 14th. And Jacob Fife going to be a little bit of an experiment here tonight for the first time this season. It's not a virtual reality camera, but I think it's a pretty cool tool nonetheless. We'll get it up on your screen right now, as Fife in that 36 is the first man this season to have our onboard camera, and we're going to try to load it up on your end as we speak, although it looks like right now, it looks like Fife might have just disconnected from the service. And that's unfortunate, but Fife is still top 15 as it stands, just about a position above that marker right now in the 14th spot. A lot of these guys still close to their starting positions, and Cody Smith, knowing that quite well, he's still leading as we are only about 4 laps in.
On the plus side, the 47 looks like he's still in pit road, but actually he's rolling off right now, so it might not be night over yet for Don Stevenson. Unfortunately, the 24 brought the car back to pit road with the right front tire just kind of hanging off under the fender there. So that's probably going to take a little more work to get that car back on track. But Don Stevenson might be able to keep going, because it looked like he got hit pretty square in the door. And I think those were the only 2 cars that really had significant damage from that accident. So hopefully, at least for those guys, they can kind of get re-racked, restacked, and get back into this thing.
Absolutely hoping to get the driver like Stevenson back on the road. And I don't believe the 24 is 24 on timing and scoring, although looking back once again, it is Christopher Schetzler, and Schetzler in the 24 Yoo-Hoo machine now 1 lap down as well as the 53 of AJ Musselman, and he is currently catching back up to the back. Stevenson looking to be one of the final drivers on that lead lap, currently 27th on the board, as it is still led by the 12 and 18. The leaders are double filed down the back straightaway, as Nightfall coming to the chat once again. Thank you for stopping by, and it looks like Dobbs is running the unfinished Nightfall Graphics livery. And how about that for Nightfall Graphics? And it looks like you might be tied to them based on the username, so great job having a car out there. It looks real good, and hopefully the driver of the 05 machine able to push it back up front. Now, it's gotten shuffled up just a bit, but the same leader, nonetheless, 5 in out of 40, and caution laps do count tonight, so we move just a bit further into this race. We won't have a sort of pause in between yellows, and we have our first yellow about 2 laps into this one. The pace car going to be diving off this time through. It's still led by Cody Smith, and beside him, it's Ross Cato in the 12 Ford Mustang. It's Chevy, Ford, and then a 4th Ford to add on to the fun, but it's still led by a Chevy Camaro so far. The pace car going to dive in here, and it's going to be led once again by Cody Smith. Let's go racing once more. First restart of the season. We are back, and it looks like a dead even start between the inside and outside this time through. Different leaders on the outsides. We have a little bit of a shuffle there on the inside. Everyone's able to save it.
Yeah, got a gap there between the first and second car on that outside lane. Starting to close up now, but we'll see if they can hang together a little bit better with the bottom lane now as they're getting grouped back together here. And stacking a little bit, but they're going to be able to pick up some of that side draft. You see the 12 kind of hanging down on the door here of the 51, just trying to get keep that lane moving best they can. And you see there's a little bit of a breakaway here, about row 5 on back from the next little group of cars here.
And focusing in on Ross Cater right now, leader of the outside line. Once again, the outside going to lose a lot of time very early into the run, but this time through, they might have a chance to make it happen. The outside is not as discombobulated. There's going to be one driver pulling up to the outside now. It's Joe Yakes, as still Cody Smith going to lead him through back to the stripe. 6 laps becomes 7 laps in out of 40 next time through, and it's still the 18 machine leading the way as Tom Wetmore goes all the way high trying to make something happen in the 51 machine, and it's the first time we've seen him all the way up front, able to avoid that last wreck and make his way up with the best of them, as Cody Smith is still leading, and now he goes up to block the high side. And it's going to be a daring move there, because if you do end up as the leader, you do want the ability to block both lines, but it ends up being a test. And we have 1 in the back, 2 in the back spinning, and it looks like Nick Terrible's going to be involved in that one, and there might be a caution. He's going backwards on track, and it looks like we will get a yellow. Nicholas Ward involved in that one as well. And let's get a replay on the matter there, because it looks like the 97 caught up in the incident. Might have been Jacob Fife caught up as well, as we saw he was in the middle of it according to timing and scoring. Let's find out what happened as we back it up on the 97 Coors machine. And he might have just gotten a bit of contact. Let's play it back once more and see. We can find out following this incident.
It just looks like the 97 just kind of got squeezed in between the 22 and the 4 there down the backstretch and just kind of ran out of road. And see, they all kind of sliding all over the place. Almost had it caught. And yeah, we saw the 4 again up against the outside wall. Again, fortunately, I don't think any of those guys got really serious damage. So I would expect all these guys are probably going to come down, put 4 stickers on there, get what little bit of damage they have patched up, and get back out into this thing.
One thing I wanted to say real quick was be looking for guys to start peeling off pit road, because that, you know, if we end up going green, which I know we've had 2 quick cautions here, but for some reason, if we go green the rest of the way, start looking for guys to coming in here and topping off, because I believe I don't have a certain number of fuel runs here for tonight, but I know last night we were about 30 laps, so and the Cup car I assume is a little bit bigger gap for runs, so start looking for people to maybe peel off and topping off here.
This time through, the leaders will not be topping it off, but certainly they do have to sooner or later. Right now, they are not going to be able to take that choice, or rather, they don't choose to by themselves. The good majority of the field is off of pit road, and we're going to check on pit road right now, see who's on it. Looks like it's going to be Schessler, one of the few drivers on it, although now, 5 laps down, he's back on the surface after 6 minutes of repairs. Although that might just be a different driver as well. Nick Terabich on the way, and he's going to come down on pit road the same time as the 97 Nicholas Ward, Farrell Ryan, Jorge Canales, and it looks like Jay Haishman there as well. So these guys in the back of the pack taking a bit of a gamble, topping off already, and maybe it will play in their favor as you see Jacob Fife on his way right now. And might be able to make something happen in the 36 machine. Maybe the strategy will work. How will this alternative strategy go to the tail end? Because there still is the possibility for overtimes. Could they stretch that far, or is this just a gamble to the 40th lap?
That is a good point. That the overtime and the green-white checkers. I believe we have 3 attempts, I believe, of overtime finishes. So you do have to think about that. But realistically, I think, especially if we keep having more cautions, we probably will be good. Good to make it to the end from here. Especially if you have a couple more cautions too, you could probably just save a little bit here. As we finally got the onboard camera working here for the 36 machine, so we can see at least the driver of that machine can't see what he's seeing.
Certainly seeing his perspective, or rather, not his perspective, but we are watching in his room, so to speak, and we can see how it is behind the wheel for the driver of the 36 machine. Not like an onboard camera in the sense that he's not strapped up, not in a helmet, not in a suit, and anything like that. Just driving right now, and you can see that he is focused on the driver, or rather the driving of the 36 machine, as he's going to catch himself back up to the pack. How we get an interview with the driver of the 36 machine and see how Jacob Fife is doing so far, as we still have a little bit more than 1 lap to go before the race gets back in order.
Yeah, let's see if we can get the driver of 36. Jacob Fife, you got us up in the FTN booth.
Yeah, I got you. Go ahead.
How's the car looking out there?
My apologies there. That's a good question. Go on. My apologies.
Oh, you're good. I was curious how the car's looking out there, and you kind of looked like you were hanging back in the pack. Missed that last little incident there, but Hanging out, trying to keep the nose clean by the looks of it.
Yeah, pretty much. I want to race a little longer than I did last night. Didn't get very many laps in the draft last night, unfortunately, so we're trying to change it a little bit. Car moves around a lot, though, so that's kind of the challenge of the night, trying to understand where you can go and where you can fit into. And yeah, it's a little darty. So we're gonna take our time here and see if we can have something for the end.
And with 40 laps in total and 10 laps through, still looking toward the end. So when it comes down to strategy, you're playing for the long run right now. We're trying to get up front, get a short burst of speed, or maybe try to use that toward the long run, or you're just going to lay back right now and see how it goes?
Yeah, we're still going to lay back for a little bit here. It's early. I think people are still getting used to each other. A lot of new guys this year. So trying to get used to that and how people race and stuff. So we'll see how if we get a longer green flag run in the next 10, 15 laps, then maybe we'll start making some moves and then kind of go from there.
That we will see, but right now, green flag going to come back out. So thank you, Jacob Fife, once again, as we see you're on board inside the sim rig of the 36 machine. Thank you once again for the participation in that, and thank you for the interview as we go green. There we have it, Jacob Fife on his way, and we are green once again. The field going to pass by as Cody Smith is still your race leader, catching back up to the leaders on track right now. Going to continue to focus on them as this race goes on, and we're going to blip right back to him. Smith has Tom Wetmore right behind him. Alan Rowell in the spam, number 43, right behind in the third spot. Joe Yates in a similar position right now, when they are all moving strong. 11 laps in, out of 40, as the engines continue to roar down the back straightaway.
I'll tell you what, these last couple laps here, before that last caution too, it's really showing kind of, I think, the strategy that Tom Wetmore's got in this 51 car. He's definitely made, oh man, we got some bumping going on, and they saved it back there. The 91 and the 05 got together. Fortunately, we kept it all together. But look at the moves that this 51 is making, just top to bottom, trying to make these moves, get to the lead, and he's got it now. But I think that when we were talking in the pre-race about what kind of strategy these guys are going to have, some people are just going to want to keep it up front and try to keep their nose clean. But Wetmore's he's got plans, man. He's going for it, and he's showing that early.
And with him, he has taken Alan Rowell, and the two of them have gotten up to the front of the pack, 12 laps in, out of 40, and getting closer to halfway through on this one. These two have been able to pull away from not the majority of the field, but they've been able to put a buffer between themselves and the rest. At the outside line, going to once again dissipate now. Cody Smith having to deal with the outside line, as the inside has yet to develop fully in this race. It looks like that's just a matter of circumstance for these guys, as they have not been able to make anything happen up there so far. The inside continuing to be dominant. 12 laps in, out of 40. The 51 machine still holding on down to the inside line, and Cody Smith trying to come back up on that outside.
Yeah, the other thing that we're seeing right now that we didn't see, of course, now we've had two quick wrecks back to back, but we're seeing that second pack develop, and we've got a good little over a second, about a second and a half almost, actually, between it's like 16th and 17th right now. So pretty much right down the middle, this field's been split in half. Guys trying to stay out of trouble, or guys maybe still want to be up front, or guys expecting there to be another wreck. But you got to also make sure, a lot of times there is a quick wreck or two quick wrecks right at the beginning of the race, and then things kind of calm back down, and you don't want to get too far back to where if it stays green, you can't get back up into the mix when it really gets down to it. So the other thing, at least on the positive side for this second pack, they're all on a single file line. They're all, they're not doing anything crazy. Nobody's trying to pull the whole line back. Everyone's leaving each other, appropriate space. And they're trying to keep that lane moving best they can, whereas these guys up front are running double wide and definitely racing for it. So they should be able to kind of keep in touch.
That time through for the second pack, it looked to be about a 40-second flat lap for the first, as a matter of fact. But looking back, they seem to be just a bit quicker here in the second. Very close lap times right now between the two in the 46-47 second range, as the camera gets shaken by the first pack. The second pack still roaring through and trying to catch up as we go back to the front right now. And it looks like the 94 machine of Boomer Logan, your new race leader. And that 94 with a Chance 3 Motorsport decal up front, the test car livery. And he's not testing anyone right now. He's up front, has clean air, and the 18 is right behind him with It looks like Ross Cato in third now. Michael Kuczynski has made it up to fourth. And behind him, it looks like Tom Wetmore is falling off just a bit. The inside line is now facing the issues the outside line once had, as they're now going to break off just a bit. Caitlin Haight going to have a bit of a maneuver placed on by Cody Griffin. And Cody Griffin has gone from the middle of the pack, actually from the back of it up to the front. Although right now going to be swallowed up 3 wide just a bit. It looks like the Griffin machine is on the move into number 3.
Yeah, and he was up higher, and that top lane really stacked up out of turn 2, and he was kind of just the odd man out when it accordioned back to him, and he kind of got punched into the middle there, and it took him a little bit to find a hole back in line, but looks like they got it all sorted now. As the 0-5 thought about going up the middle there of Alan Dobbs there. Thinks better of it's going to slot back in line here on the outside lane, but I'm surprised now, especially when we've seen the outside really struggle to get going on restarts, but now they've got some cars up there, they're formed up, it looks like they've kind of got the numbers on the inside lane as well, but they're making that top lane work, which isn't something you see actually all that often on iRacing. It's pretty typical in the real world to see that, but it looks like we're seeing that top, right now their bottom's trying to come back here a little bit, but the outside's had a couple car length advantage here these last couple laps now, as the 87 is going to pull just up even with the 94 here. Not sure if looks like he's going to get a push in that 51 again. I'm telling you, Wetmore is after it and wants to keep that thing up front.
And how about the aggression there from Tom Wetmore? He has been pushing, and he gets Joe Yates pushed all the way up to the front of the pack there, as now going to be almost a block from the driver of the 94 machine. He could place one down on the inside line if he chose to. He does know he has Cody Smith behind him, the pole sitter, one of the most consistent guys lap after lap so far in this race. So certainly has a great guy behind him to work off of as they are now both clear of the inside line. They could go down if they want to, but it's all about playing the long game here. You could go down the inside line and make the block, and of course you prevent their momentum from destroying the outside line, to say the least. But you can see the 51 and 87 have something going all the way down to the front straightaway, and when they get together, they get aggressive, and nobody's able to stop them. That time through, Logan has the advantage, but the 51 machine is still fighting hard, as Cody Smith still right behind the 94. These guys are not touching, but if you look further down into the pack, Tom Wetmore was making contact with Joe Yates, and he certainly is leaving him less room than the good majority of the field, especially the good majority of the outside line is giving one another.
Yeah, just like we were talking about pre-race, about making mental notes for the actual race coming up in a couple weeks. Whitmore would be one of the people that we would sit there and say, hey, this guy can really push, and he's a good pusher. I don't know how he would be with receiving a push, but as what we're seeing right now, he can really push. Also, as Thomas stated earlier, the 18, I think he's also going to be one to watch out for. I don't know if I made the wrong pre-race pick now or not, but I made my best for to sit in it to look for these guys to keep making mental notes about how everybody's racing at this point in time.
That is for certain the mental notes right now. The guys up front, the 94 and the 12, now leading both lines. Look like Ross Cato has gone down to the inside as we see a bit of a shuffle in the back. Cody Griffin could go from the bottom to the top. The 94 has been able to keep control of this race from the time he acquired it, as Cody Smith has been able to hold on right behind him, and Caitlin Haight is now back up front following that early incident. It looks like the 11 machine able to responsibly recover, and the Audi now back up front to fight a sea of Ford Mustangs. Looks like the Mustangs have the advantage when it comes to the front row. We've seen, of course, the Cody Smith Camaro has ran up front with them. Is there any aerodynamic difference that has these Mustangs running so well? Is there just it comes down to the drivers, comes down to the pushers, and who is being pushed? It looks like these Mustangs and the Audi running the Mustang body, they're all up front and they're making great moves.
I think it might be. I'm sorry, Thomas, you can go ahead and take that one.
Oh, I was just going to say, I mean, it's something that we talked about a lot in real life, too. The Fords have that very flat front nose, so it's a lot easier for those cars to push compared to the Camaros or the Camrys. So I think you probably are seeing a little bit of that carry over here onto the here in iRacing as well.
Be on your toes.
And as it carries over, it is still the 94 leading the way. We're going to make the intervals disappear and show the manufacturers of each driver right now. And a sea of Chevrolets inside the top 10, or the bottom segment of the top 10. As you can see, a good majority of these guys in the top 5 or so are in Fords. The rest of the field seems to be dominated by Chevrolets. And all the way down to the 29th spot spot, it's going to be Schetzler, and he is in a Chevrolet himself, but going back up front, we got a wreck in the back of the pack. We are going to check on that one, and it looks like a yellow is going to come out. 21 in out of 40. We saw some big smoke, and the yellow flag is indeed out. As you can see, it looks like one of the Fifes got involved. It could be Jacob, could be Jim.
I think it was both of them.
That. It looks like it could have been both of them. We're going to find out right now.
The
36 machine, big time involved. And the Triple P machinery seems to have some minor damage. Let's go check, get a replay on this incident and find out what happened to the driver of the 36. And it looks like it might have been the 63 as well. So let's rewind the tape and find out what happened to Jacob Fife as he goes all the way down to the apron as we try to rewind it slowly but surely. He goes down to the grass to avoid this one. Let's find out. Oh, he got turned. That is for certain.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to try to run this tape back and see what just happened to Jacob Fife, get the wide angle shot on it, and here we go. Let's take a look.
Yeah, I'm not sure if, I don't know if Chris Edwards in that 72 got tight, got up into the wall, and just kind of stacked up and all accordion together and just ran out of track and couldn't quite get by the 72. And unfortunately, the four of Nick Terbuck got in the back of Jacob Fife there and turned him down the racetrack, and that just kind of blocked everything up. And a lot of good cars there, nowhere to go, unfortunately.
And as you can see, Jim Fife gets involved with Nicholas Ward there. It looks like Jacob getting the better of the two, and the 63 having just a bit of trouble getting out of that one. Cody Smith is still your leader, 22 laps in, and he's been doing well up front, and it looks like the guys up front able to avoid it once again. That second pack having the most trouble throughout this entire race. And while it hasn't been all too much so far, these guys are still in jeopardy of losing more time and getting more damage to their cars, as now it looks like Caitlin Haight is in the second position spot for just a moment, as it is still Boomer Logan, position number 2, and happily dragging the driver of that 94 machine and see how he is feeling so far in this event.
Right, let's see if we can find Mr. Boomer Logan. Here we go.
And it looks like there we have him, and it will be the 94 machine. Boomer Logan looks like your runner-up on the board right now. So how do you feel? We're more than halfway through this one. You've been running quite well. So how will it be, or what will it take to get you to the victory? And once again, going to try to get a copy there. This is the Fireball Talks NASCAR live booth. Boomer Logan, do you have a copy?
I got you guys. How you guys doing?
There we go. So 94 machine running way up front, second position at the moment, and it looks like more than halfway through. What will it take to get you that victory here at Daytona?
I will see. Just kind of messing around, jump down to see what it'd be like. Cody's definitely a heck of a pusher, so we'll see. I'd like having him behind me more than being in second, but we'll see what we can do on the top side. Seems like if you can get organized, should be okay. So, yeah, just kind of feeling it out, having some fun. Don't have a lot of laps in this car particularly, so it's a different experience on plate tracks, but I'm all for it and see if we can pull off the win tonight.
And looking for that win, the high side now getting a big run as we were watching beforehand. What's the more important line, or what's the more dominant line, the bottom or the top, and what do you feel is the best for your car?
I think the biggest thing is just who you're with, you know. I think it really, the help you can get or the help you can give, I think is going to matter a little bit more. Obviously, the high side, you can keep it wound up a little bit more, and I do prefer to try to be on the high side if I can. Seems like you can you know, kind of control your fate a little bit more versus when you're on the inside. But we'll see. Try make something happen, restart on the outside here.
And it looks like restarting on the outside in the second spot. How will it be from that position, and what are your goals immediately and in the long term? Are you playing it for the long term or playing it just to get up front right now?
We're just going to try and stay up as much up front as we can here. Normally try to employ the Dale Jr. method at plate racing. Take every opportunity you can and just stick with it and go as hard as you can every lap. So not aggressive, but I'll take opportunities when I can get them and see what it leads to.
And I got to ask before we let you go, Boomer, right before that caution came out, we saw you jump down to the bottom lane when it looked like you and Cody Smith were working really well on the outside. Was that just down to trying to experiment and see maybe how the bottom was or anything like that? Or was there something you saw, or what was the motivation there? I'm just curious.
Yeah, nothing important. Just everyone was like, "Why are we running all the way around the top?" I was like, "I don't know." That's where Cody said he was gonna stay, so just tried to try something different on the bottom, and obviously lost a couple spots, but see how it works. Now leading the outside lane again, so yeah. Nothing, no strategy, just having fun.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. Good time to experiment and learn things for later in the race, but we'll let you get back to it. Thanks for chatting with us, Boomer.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
There we have it, the 94 machine of Boomer Logan, second on the board right now, and Cody Smith is still your race leader. Apologies for that intermission, something coming in through our internal system, and we thought it was broadcasting to the viewers, but it looks like everything is well, and we will get back to the action. If you enjoy this race, be sure to like and subscribe. It means the world to us. If you subscribe for more than 1 minute to the channel, you'll be eligible to comment whenever or chat whenever live to make sure you support your favorite driver. Pace car is in, 24 laps out of 40. We are back green once again, led by the 18 and 94.
Much more formed up restart. It looks like, oh, well, the outside stacked a little bit like 5 rows back. There's been some real trouble getting that outside lane going, but you see those bottom 3 cars on the inside there, the first 3 cars on the bottom, I should say, getting really far ahead of their help, and the top seems a little bit better formed up as you see Boomer working that side draft on the 83, trying to pull that outside lane back up towards the front.
And right now, Boomer Logan having to do what many drivers on the outside have had to do before, make it happen up there, as Sam Nito now back up front, and he's going to be the leader of the outside line with Boomer Logan right behind him. And Nito had a lot of pace in practice, had a lot of pace in qualifying as well. One going to go way off the track. That's going to be Michael Kaczynski. Is Kaczynski going to be able to hold on? It looks like he's going to be able to do so, although it looks like it might be David Mayberry. And it looks like right now, one driver falling like a rock on the charts, and it looks like Mayberry should be that guy. We're going to try to get a look on his car, and Mayberry it is, and we're going to try to get an instant replay on the matter. Mayberry going to lose the draft there and lose the pack. Looks like he just got shot out of it like a cannon, and we're going to try to get a better look at it. 25 laps in out of 40, and David Mayberry going to be sent for a wild ride. He has to go down pit road to avoid anything worse happening to his car, as we're going to try to get a better look at this incident, and we're going to back it up just a bit more than we wanted to. Let's get it back fast forwarded and see what happened to the driver of that 29 machine. D coming down into the 3rd and 4th turns. Here's what happens.
Yeah, it looks like they all just kind of stacked up there. Unfortunately, the series officials were kind to Mr. Mayberry there and cleared his black speeding down pit road, but I think that was probably, honestly, taking a pit road was a much safer option than trying to, oh, we got the leaders going around the 2 car right in front of the field.
And caution is out. We're getting an instant replay on this one as well, and we are getting a look as we speak. And the leaders are around. We're getting a bit of trouble there. As you can see, Mayberry has already pulled up on the wreck, and Sam Nito looking to be involved. Let's find out what happened. As you can see, Nito going way slow right now. Let's get an instant replay, and I'll look back at what just happened, as we're going to get interrupted there. And Sam Nito goes for a wild ride there, and looks like it happens with Cody Smith. So let's back it up just a bit to make sure the viewers are able to see what happened. It looks like back to back there, and Smith trying to give a push to Nito, and going down into that first turn. It's always hard to push a leader into a turn there, and the quarter panel, it looks like it was tapped almost there, and the round rear end for these next gens, and that's all she wrote. Nito around, Wetmore involved, and drivers fly by. It looks like Stevenson able to fly by there, as Guillermo Alvarez going to be able to make it up into 3rd. Looks like he might have been able to full send it. He was a very, very quick coming out of that wreck. We are going to watch once again to see how he was able to maneuver through it. Now gets up to the 3rd spot as a result of this wreck, and more guys wreck after the first wreck. Looks like it was Boomer Logan involved, as he goes down to the apron, tries to save it, taps it a few times, and he just gets a tap there from Kaczynski. That's harsh.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if they ran out of, oh yeah, I think so. Boomer looks like he's got the dreaded meatball, so that might be, oh yeah, slapped the inside wall really hard there. So he's definitely going to have some work to do on that race car. But I was just getting ready to say, Mayberry, I guess, made out lucky that he wasn't, he would have probably been right in the middle of all that. So it lucked out for him that he ended up going down pit road and had lost the draft. So, man, I'm surprised, though, that wasn't a much bigger wreck than it looked like it was going to be. I mean, especially with Nito being, he was the lead car on the outside lane. I really thought that was going to be the field right there. And it only ended up being, what, like 4-ish cars, really? 5, maybe?
And much less than we expected. The leader going around and a few guys able to avoid it, a few guys getting a bit luckier, and a few guys getting unluckier, as it looks like. Now Logan going to be back out on the track, so he might not be done and done, but his winning chances might just have a bit of a bit of a handicap put to him as the driver of the 94 going to get back out on the circuit once again. And Nick Tarabuch going to be in the same situation as well in the, we can't say that sponsor name on the broadcast, but Furniture Row inspired number 4 machine as we get back to the leaders. Right now, it still looks like the 18 machine is out front, and Guillermo Alvarez is right behind him.
Yeah, and I was going to say it actually has the 2 still scored as the leader, although he came down pit road this time. Probably not a bad idea considering what he just went through, but the car actually looks great, believe it or not. These next-gen bodies are pretty tough, so I guess that's going to allow him to keep going here. He's probably got a little bit of damage to fix, but nothing too bad. And I guess in Boomer's case, again, kind of same thing. It looks like it's mostly body work. So, and we see this a lot with these plate races as well. You'll see guys get into these wrecks and they'll lose a body panel. I mean, think about last night. Michael Stroll won the Ignite Series race. The whole, literally from the seat post back of his car was destroyed from an earlier incident. So just because you got damage doesn't mean the night's over. You just got to stick with it. And sometimes all you got to, like, you know, maybe you're not the best line leader. Maybe you're not the best pusher anymore. But if you can at least fix it well enough that you can stay in the draft and stay in the mix, that's honestly sometimes with the way these races go, that's all you need. And we're going to probably have about a 10-lap shootout, maybe 11 when we get back racing here. So not a lot of racing to go. And again, all you got to do is be in the picture.
And we are looking to see whether or not the big picture plays out for the man of the 18 machine, and that is Cody Smith. And right now he has Guillermo Alvarez right behind him, Alan Dobbs in third, and Brandon Zimmerman has made his way up to the top 5 with Michael Kuczynski. Following that incident, he's actually still in the top 5, and we saw him go with Boomer Logan. He might have gotten a bit luckier there and actually might have not tapped the wall the same way Boomer Logan did, because Kuczynski still looks to have a decent going car. He's on a 29-lap-old set of tires. He's on now the tied-oldest stint alongside Cody Smith, and both your leader and the man in 5th have not gone down pit road just yet, it appears. Not sure what's going on there. Maybe these guys will be able to go all the way. Is it a risk they're taking? Maybe there's something going on that we're not aware of.
I mean, it's definitely something. Oh, go ahead, Casey. Go ahead.
Oh, I don't want to take you off your thought process, but I was just going to mention Jacob Fife's interview earlier talking about the cars being twitchy, and I know you said we're going to have about a 9-lap shootout when we go back green. These guys might not feel comfortable with these cars being so twitchy to take it 3 wide in order to make space for those ups. So that means we're going to be a lot more aggressive on the pushing, and we've already seen these cars are not square like the Xfinity cars were last night. So we've already seen pushing troubles. So are we going to see more?
It's possible. And that's, again, what I was getting ready to mention is, you know, going off of those guys not pitting yet, we've had a lot of caution laps. So, yes, you could save some fuel. But like you had mentioned earlier in the broadcast, David, what happens if we have those overtime finishes? We got 3 attempts at a green-white checkered. So, you know, you got to factor that in. That could add a lot of extra, like, I mean, you could add 10, 12 more laps really to the race distance. And yes, some of them are going to be caution laps, but 50 or so laps on 1 tank of gas, even with caution laps in there, that's kind of a decent way to go. So I hope for their sake, they don't have that. But, you know, I guess that's going to be their thing to figure out, or they're keeping their fingers crossed, or they probably know their situation a little better than we do at the very least.
And absolutely, they must be monitoring their situation because they're still up front more than, now this time by, going to be more than 3/4 through in this race, and it will be a final 10-lap shootout without an overtime finish, and we'll see if we can go all of that way. Cody Smith leads them back to the green once again. Can he be stopped? We're going to find out. It's Alvarez and Dobbs now behind him at the outside line once again. Just not together, and time after time doesn't work out. Alvarez gonna drop it and go to the inside line. He's able to save himself because it looks like the inside line not working all too well together as well. So it's gonna be Smith and Dobbs who pull away, and Alvarez able to hold on as well. And the third part of that big line on the inside, and now the outside is a 2-car tandem going for itself. Kuczynski going to be working with Cody Griffin at the same time. Now it's becoming a big picture for the outside line. They're going to be able to overtake your race leader, and now it's not your race leader. It is now going to be the Alvarez machine over Cody Smith.
Yeah, I mean, those guys took off so well on the bottom. It opens up the top. You see Cody Griffin, where's he been all night hanging out? Now he's shooting up to the 2nd position looking for the race. And here comes Tom Whitmore on the outside again. I'm telling you, he's been waiting, and it's go time for him. But these guys on the bottom get going so well on these restarts, it gives these guys a chance to jump up to the outside as Cody Griffin does, and he's going to lead with Cody Smith.
And a big wreck there, and it looks like it's going to be multiple cars in the middle and the back of the pack. I think Musselman was involved, and we're going to find out. The 53 definitely caught up in that one. Everyone in timing and scoring is cycling around as we speak. And we're going to try to get a better look at that one. I think Fife was close to where it happened, and we'll try to get a better look from his end of it. And that is yet another wreck with 9 laps to go. And I was going to say Sam Nita was getting aggressive. It looks like everyone was getting aggressive as that wreck just came into the picture, and we're going to see who was involved. I think it's going to be Caitlin Height involved in this one, although it looks like the driver of that 11 machine in the back of the pack. As we slowly but surely roll through and find out who was involved, we're going to try to get a secure angle and make sure we focus all on the wreck. Let's watch it once again because we saw it in the back of our screen there. And it looks like 3 wide, and the 84 machine goes right up there, and that's what's going to cause it. It happens right behind there, as Matt Jonas looks like he actually was able to get through. And just barely, the Fife's right in front of him. And Ross Cato going to get involved in that one as well. And it looks like the 15 of Jonas was able to send Brandon Zimmerman up the track. And Zimmerman gets held up from there.
Tell you what, the Fifes have had an eventful night, probably more so than they were hoping for.
And have to say the same, they're able to avoid that one, but Brandon Zimmerman going to be among the drivers such as Matt Jonas and Caitlin Hayton, not able to get out of that one scot-free, and it looks like Zimmerman still on the track here. And these next gens are very durable bodies, and that might be a detriment of the driver in the real world, but these guys don't feel the forces of the car. So it looks like, unbelievably, Cody Griffin has made his way up into the first position. Guillermo Alvarez is now in a second spot, and Cody Smith now in third. It's Cody and Cody going to be lining up on the inside line back-to-back now, as Smith is going to be led by Griffin as one goes down on the outside line, and that will be the 24 machine. It looks like for the 24, going to be getting a few laps back, or actually might be getting a final lap back there, as the Yahoo 24 going to be able to get back up from some earlier mistakes, and Christopher Schletzer now on the move once again to try to get in winning contention. But how about it, Cody Griffin, your new race leader? Maybe we could dial him up.
Yeah, let's see if we can talk to the old JT Motorsports driver, because you know what could possibly go wrong with talking to our good friend Cody Griffin. Let's see if we got him dialed up here. Cody Griffin up at the FTN booth. You got us, buddy?
Yeah, man.
Got that thing up in the wind finally. It's taking you a little bit, but you played your cards right, and now you find yourself leading this thing with a handful of laps to go. How's the car feel, and do you feel like you can hang on here?
Yeah, just kind of playing defense back there, to be honest with you. Pretty crazy out here. Car's a little, after about 5 or so laps, car gets pretty free coming off the corner, especially in the draft. So everybody's just kind of bebopping around everywhere. So I was on defense there, and Cam Tyler got me up here. He's on the spotter stand. He got us up here in a good spot. So we're going to see if we can put this JTM thing in victory lane.
And as we go on to the final segment of this race, we still have the possibility of 3 overtime attempts. So how will we be managing that? Looks like you're on an 11-lap old stint on tires. Are you good to go when it comes to fuel going into the remainder of this race?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we're way good on fuel. It's just picking the right line here, right lane with momentum. These things have got ridiculous runs. So it's just going to be jumping up in the right lane when the run's coming to you, and see if we can capitalize here.
Capitalization is key here at Daytona. How's it been running throughout the field and making yourself comfortable with the guys? Or maybe you're not comfortable with all of them, but some of these guys certainly running as hard as they can. Some of these guys more aggressive than others. Who has been where, or rather, what's been the best place to go to find a partnership? The inside line, the outside line, doesn't matter depending on the driver. And when will it be time to work with someone toward the tail end?
I think the high line's got a little bit better forward momentum. Seems like the bottom line rubber bands up pretty bad. And with the way the runs are in these things, you kind of just have to work with who you can. It's kind of hard to have a teammate with these things. It kind of reminds me in a way of like the 2-car tandem, but then it also sucks up to the pack really well. So it's a pretty weird mix, but we'll see what happens here.
And indeed, we will. Any final thoughts before we get back to the green?
Just thank y'all for broadcasting. Try to get this JTM Chevy in victory lane.
And that's the goal for Cody Griffin and the 3 machine right now. Thank you for your time.
Thank y'all.
And Cody Griffin has been on the move all race long with 6 laps remaining. He is up front, and he could be the man to beat right now with this position. Not a lot of time. If he has someone who worked right behind him, he could be able to pull away with this one. And that's always possible, but you never know. Here at Daytona, someone might get just a bit too aggressive and make a move that messes everyone up at the same time. It's always possible. And now we're going to find out, is the pace car going to dive in this time by, and this could be the final run of this race. And that we will see as the iRacing pace car is dove in. It's going to be 5 green flag laps. If we don't get a caution, this could be the final run. Green flags out, and Cody Griffin gets a great start over the remainder of the field. The jump is big, and Alvarez, the only driver to get even close to that. And now Tom Wetmore on the back end of the 83.
They are really spaced out. Like, oh, and Cody's going to try and cover the top here. That's not something. As 83 jumps to the inside, he's going to go for the lead here through 1 and 2.
And what a move from Guillermo Alvarez. And now they're going to be 3 wide. Tom Wetmore going 3 from position number 2 as they rush down the back straightaway up to the high side. The driver of the 51's going to be able to go. Tries to make a hard block there. Able to make it happen. Crosses everyone up. And now Tom Wetmore, the leader, with Guillermo Alvarez on the inside line, trying to make it happen at the same time. Everyone is moving at the same time now, and all in unison, they're pushing, trying to get up front. They're 3 wide in the middle of the pack now, and it looks like one of these drivers involved will be the 84, and that 84 is down on the inside line of that 3 wide mix-up, and Jorge Canales trying to hold on there as it's still Wetmore, your race leader. Sam Nito's gotten back out front, and Nito's got his damage repaired. Everything looks to be good to go on that car, and this could be the Ford Mustang to beat as he's got Dobbs right behind him, and Kaczynski to boot, and it looks like Guillermo Alvarez there with Cody Smith. They're trying to become a 2-car tandem with not a lot of time remaining. Time, it is of the essence, and now they've got to push to the limit to make something happen. 4 to go here, and it's going to be Wetmore, Nito, Dobbs, and now Don Stevenson goes down to the inside line. The inside is forming, and it could be a last dance for those all the way down close to the apron.
It's crazy. This inside lane has not taken off, but they keep slotting in front of each other as we see now the 18 of Cody Smith dive there. Look at the run he's trying to carry up there. We're getting together a little further back. Are they going to save it? I think they are. It looks like that was the 43. And, oh, no, we got more trouble up on the racetrack here.
And the 98 machine going to be in a bit of trouble as well, but everyone, for the most part, able to save it. We're going to try to get a better look at what just happened, and we're going to see that Alan Rowell was involved in that. Let's get an instant replay on the matter. Not even going to buffer it through, because with 3 laps to go now, Rowell going to lose a bit of time as we're backing it up just a bit too much, and we're going to find out how it went for the driver of the 43s. We come down to those first and second turns. You can see they're getting oh so aggressive. And this is how it all rolls out. That might have been netcode there. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure. There's a lot of shuffling that was going on around that area of the pack. So, again, we've seen it, especially last night. Gosh, that's a big hit for the 98 into the outside wall there. Looks like he's able to keep going, though, but still single file. And the inside is gone. I mean, there's nobody. Just the top 4 together, then Don Stevenson. Now we got the top 7, and Cody Smith with a big run. Now he's going to dive to the inside and try to get that inside lane working again as we're going to be coming to the white flag this time by.
And Cody Smith now down with Guillermo Alvarez. Those two have been making a lot of aggressive moves, and some of them have been to the detriment of their running position. But now they look to be making something happen. The 51 machine of Wetmore, still your race leader, 39 in, and it's going to be 1 lap remaining this time through. And Tom Wetmore going to lead him down to the white flag. This is it. Next flag will end it. Checkers or yellow, and I don't think we're getting a yellow anytime soon. The final 2.5 miles, they're still single file, and Sam Nito there waiting to make something happen, perhaps on the backstretch, perhaps even later.
Watch this 2-car backing up, trying to build that run. He left a car length and a half through the corner, and here he is going to try to get to the inside, and you see guys shifting down. Here comes Cody Smith again as they wreck at the back of the lead pack. Still side by side as the 2 starts to lose the ground, but here comes the 18.
Cody Smith going to get all he has right now. The 18 right behind the 2, and they are pushing. It's Budweiser. It's Miller, but it's still led by Tom Wetmore. Alan Dobbs right behind him, and Wetmore been a man on the mission. He's going to go down to the inside line. He dives there. Alan Dobbs going to go with them. They're going to be touching, and they do touch. Michael Kaczynski is going to barely hold on and win the Octane Clash at Daytona. Wow. And that's a photo finish to remember.
Absolutely. What a great job there, just playing it right. It was so hard. You could see in those last couple of laps, especially Cody Smith was trying to get the bottom work to work, and there were guys trying. They just couldn't get more than like a car or 2, up next to the guys on the outside. And the 30 was just hanging out in the right spot and let it all happen around him. He's in the perfect spot, much like Michael Stroll was last night. Great job being in the right spot and picking up the win there.
And this time by, Kuczynski did not have to go through a sea of cars. He just had to avoid the wrong ones. What a finish. Let's get a replay, as I do believe we saw a few guys go down and around at the same time. And we're going to back it up and look at that one once again, because that's going to be a finish to remember. Let's try to see what happened first in the backpack and see who went around. Looks to actually have been one car that went around, and that should be single car incident on our end, and that it is. One goes around, and that's going to be the 29 machine, and I believe that is going to be Mayberry down and around there. And he's going to be able to clear himself off of the track. But let's take a look at this one again, and we're going to try to back it down at about a third of the speed to make sure that everyone's going to be able to watch it back. And we're going to put it down to actually a quarter of the speed, and this is coming to the stripe. Let's get it at a different angle, a wider shot. And Dobbs is going to try to make an aggressive maneuver. He pulls out to the inside of the track, and Wetmore goes to block, and that is the end of both of the races. Now, not necessarily the end of Dobbs, but he loses so much momentum, I don't think it's possible to recover from that point.
Yeah, and it's all it takes sometimes, especially when he's out there by himself and the rest of the pack is still more or less formed up. You just kind of need that little bubble push from behind, and it looks like that was all the 30 really needed for that last little bit to get by.
He used every bit of momentum nicely, and he eventually gets the win as a result of such matters. The 30 machine burning it down, and what a victory it was for Michael Kuczynski. And he's going to be talking about this one for a while, I know for certain. And the final margin of victory, it goes down to the wire as a 43,000th of a second difference, as Kuczynski pulls it in already to the entry of the garage. And I think that's going to be the end of his burnout. And now we got to get him in for an interview. What a victory that was, as he has parked it. He hasn't despawned it just yet, and it looks like he is still in the car. But let's try to get a word from Michael Kuczynski, your race winner, and what a race win that was.
I'm not even sure if he's in the Discord, which would be awful if we can't talk to our winner. I know our second and third place finishers are, but I'm not seeing him in here.
And we're going to try to hook up with the driver of the 30 machine. You're right about that. I actually don't see him as well, and that's weird. I don't see him at all.
We can talk to our third and second place finishers in the meantime, see if maybe he gets in here.
Yeah,
if you like.
Definitely, we can go from there. So at that rate, we're not going to be able to get a word with the race winner not in the league Discord, and that's a interesting situation. I'm going to try to look for the traces of him as we get to our next interview, and our next interview will be with Don Stevenson, as he's going to come home third on the night. We're going to do reverse podium position order. Stevenson, the 47 machine, able to come home very strong here tonight. So how are you feeling after that chaotic finish and the first finish of the Octane Series season?
I mean, honestly, and I guess it's just from admin's point of view, I was kind of a little bit disappointed of the quality of the race tonight. There was an awful lot of wrecks tonight, and granted, I know a lot of us were shaking the rest off, and the car was pretty loose, and a little bit, especially a handful in the draft, and especially when you tried to push someone. But we got to be a lot better than that. I mean, there's just way too many wrecks for a 40-lap race, and I guess just thinking from an admin's point of view there. But driver's side, I mean, driver's point of view, we pretty much started around the middle of the field, and got closer to the front in one lap, and then got involved in a wreck, and got involved in a couple more wrecks, and kind of just found this is a tough car, and you're able to fix it with about 15 minutes of damage, and that's about what we did tonight. So we was able to get back up there near the front, and then towards the end there, it just everyone was running the top lane, and anytime anyone tried to go to the bottom, it was just you pretty much ran into a brick wall of air, and you couldn't go nowhere. So just kind of rode it out and brought home a top 3 finish.
And absolutely able to ride it out quite nicely there, getting up front. Did you think at the end of it, when that incident occurred down the front straightaway, you'd have a chance to get the victory?
Well, I mean, I guess it was more just it needed to be set up. Like, if I was really thinking about winning it, it really needed to be set up more of a side-by-side type deal, and cars getting together that way. With cars being single file, I didn't really think had any chance of winning it. Honestly, I was just trying to more or less get a spot or two whenever I could. Coming, even on the white, because it, as soon as you even tried to make any type of move to the inside, you just, you just could not go anywhere. And so more or less just had to kind of stay with what you had, and get the best finish you could.
At the end of the day, able to get the best finish you could in the third spot. Now, the season opener for the Octane Series will be at Daytona as well. So, do you think the experience gained from here will transfer over to that event, even though it will be much longer and it will be a points-paying event, so drivers will take it with a different attitude?
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, and I got to think it will too. I mean, a lot of people here haven't really been in a car, since we finished up last season, and a lot of us haven't really done any restrictor play racing since, the last race we had there, the end of the season last year in Talladega, I guess. But I mean, I think everyone will in a few weeks. Everyone will have a lot more patience. There won't be as many, you know, drastic moves, I think, as early as we saw tonight. And I anticipate we'll have a lot more green flag racing because that's what the Integrity Racing League has been known for the last several years, is having a lot of green flag racing. And, got some bugs to shake off there, but I mean, I'm sure in a couple weeks, we'll put on a much better show.
We'll be looking forward to next week, actually, the next couple of weeks, as you said. We'll be looking forward to that, and that is for certain. So, any final thoughts before we head on to our second event at Daytona?
I just got to thank my wife for picking out this lovely paint scheme I had. Pretty much the paint by numbers Chevrolet. I pretty much have her picking out a different paint scheme for me every week. So there's no telling what you're going to see on this car each week, and it'll be a different manufacturer each week. So I mean, everyone will be in for a treat with that. And thank the Integrity Racing League for and all the admins for all their hard work putting everything on here. And thank you for broadcasting the race here, and excited to have you on for the season and everything. So looking forward to everything.
And absolutely, Don Stevenson coming home with his first podium on the season. Not a points-paying one, but nonetheless a great result for the 47 machine. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And as a result of the way we started this one, it's going to be a reverse podium procedure. So the second man up will be the driver in the second spot, Alan Dobbs, in the 05 machine. Oh, so close to the victory there. And you almost got it even after that final incident at the front straightaway. So how was it going through those final few laps, that final run, and eventually getting oh so close to the victory?
Hey, that was a blast, and a lot better than doing cartwheels on lap 5 like last night. But yeah, I mean, we were just running that high line, and not only is that super fun, and it doesn't happen very often, but it was working really well. And I had it set up for a good, last corner pass there. And in typical Daytona fashion, we had some blocking and some spinning, and we ended up not being able to carry enough speed to the finish. But it was still a good race, and I enjoyed being here.
No, when it came down to that final run compared to good majority of the race, we did see you up front, but eventually you had to get aggressive to keep yourself in that final group of drivers who were able to make it toward the tail end. So how was it sort of determining how the strategy went for you and eventually finding yourself in the top 2 coming down to the line?
Yeah, I started out just, I wanted to qualify for a better pit road position so I could find my box easier, and took that first pit stop, dropped to the back, and really just hoped, missed a few wrecks and got a little bit lucky, unlike last night. Turned out pretty good.
The luck was on your side in this final run. So when it came down to, I guess, the next gens versus the Xfinity cars, how was the difference in handling Daytona, and how do you think it will play into your experience both going into the Ignite Series and the Octane Series when their seasons begin?
Yeah, they're completely different. I'm pretty sure they're operating on like a different aero model for drafting, and I personally, I think that the Cup cars are spot on. You really got to have help, or you can't really go anywhere, and really you need 3 or 4 cars even. But I mean, Daytona's Daytona, right? I mean, you can have all the experience in the world and get wrecked lap 1, so you just got to hope for the best.
That is for certain. At the end of the day, looks like you got the best out of it, almost the best out of it there, very close to the victory. So we're going to get back to the season in a few weeks' time. Any final thoughts before we head to our first points-paying race?
I just want to give a shout out to my graphic sponsor, Nightfall Graphics, and Elite Performance Industries. And once again, thanks to the admins here and for the broadcast. Looks really good. Can't wait to watch it back, and can't wait to get this season started. Should be a lot of fun.
Can't wait as well. Alan Dobbs, second place on the night here in the Clash. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
That's going to be our second position driver, so that will lead us to our final interview of the night, and it will be Michael Kaczynski, the number 30 machine, getting it done, and we're watching the instant replay in slow motion right now on stream with 500 feet to go. You were in the third position, and you were able to make not one, but two spots up and grab the win here in the Clash. So how was it during that final run, eventually getting the W?
Wow, it was intense. I was actually on the restart looking to actually go with Sam Nieto on that restart, but just it ended up getting crazy there at the end. And my gut feeling was to stay on the high side. I ran, this week a lot of majors qualifying races, and my mindset was like, okay, follow what they do, and a lot of the races were all outside lines. So I'm like, okay, stay on the outside and hope for the best.
And you were able to make the best of it there. And how was it avoiding the drivers in that final few series of incidents? Were you thinking that you'd have to play aggressive with your car or just avoid the wrecks to end up out front?
Well, to be honest, I didn't pit at all the whole race. So my mindset was to prepare for, the real race when it comes time. This is the same rule set we're going to work with. So, I figure, try to go as real as possible. And it did get loose there the final couple laps, but I held off. I was lucky to get that win. It was by inches, to be honest with you.
Absolutely a very, very close race at the end of the day. Now, this is Daytona. It could always happen. We've seen two straight close finishes on two back-to-back nights. So going into the season opener for the Octane Series, how do you feel about the experience you've gotten here, getting your first victory? It's not points paying. When we get to the points paying showdown, do you think you'll have a chance up there?
Oh, absolutely. Points paying or not, a win's a win in the record book. A lapse is lapse. You get experience no matter what. So this is going to definitely, I know it's not going to be as hectic as it was tonight, but definitely going to be a lot interesting. I got my teammates, Chris Edwards and Farrell Ryan as well. So hopefully we can get a 1-2-3 finish.
And looking forward to what can happen for your team. But tonight, you come out on top. The 30 machine of Michael Kaczynski getting it done. Any final thoughts before we wrap this up?
I just want to thank the sponsors, Extreme Performance Motorsports, Apparel, for amazing jerseys they provide. And, thanks to the league, you guys for putting on a great broadcast. Looking forward to see what you guys do next time.
Absolutely. Kaczynski getting it done and putting it in the books. First victory on the series. This is the Clash. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, guys.
There we have it. That is your podium procedure for tonight's event. All three interviews from all three drivers on the podium. Now, let's get on to your race results and see how people finished in this one. A total of 29 drivers. Let's go on from here and see how it wrapped up. What a race that was. Any final thoughts from you guys before we get on with the grid? Rather, the final results that are placed on a grid.
It was a great 2 days of racing, to be honest. For the first one, both me and Thomas being a part of, and then this one tonight, I think we're set up for a great season in both leagues, and it's going to be a crazy year. And I just can't wait to get started. A couple weeks, I forgot when that race starts, when the league actually starts, but can't wait to get it jump started, boys.
I believe next week is when we're actually getting going for both series. I think we just
Oh boy.
one, yeah, so right around the corner. But yeah, it was definitely an interesting race, very different dynamic than what we saw last night. Obviously, both had their fair share of incidents for sure, but definitely a lot more action. And I think that was, tonight at least, I think that was partly down to these next gen cars. And you heard the drivers talking about just how big the runs were, and we could see it all night long. And working the side draft, and that moves the cars around as well. So. And like we talked about early in the race, you're gonna, people are gonna make note of who worked well with them tonight, who maybe wasn't so comfortable to be around, and they're gonna take that into next week. And you're gonna see people probably adjust their driving a little bit, or maybe their race strategies for the points paying race next week.
And what a 2 races these were. Absolutely taking the experience and building on it for next week. Now, next week in the Octane Series will be a preseason event at Lakeland, so not going to be a points-paying race as well, but we're still getting geared up for the remainder of the show. We're going to get onto it very, very soon. Let's get through your race results here. Michael Kaczynski, your race winner by 43 thousandths of a second over Alan Dobbs and Don Stevenson in the 3rd position. And Jorge Canales comes home in 4th with Sam Nito rounding at the top 5. Cody Smith, your pole sitter, finishes in 6th. And Guillermo Alvarez going to be able to finish in 7th with Tom Whitmore 8th. Caitlin Haight in 9th. Cody Griffin in 10th. And from there on out, it looks like Jay Haishman, Christopher Schessler, Luis Caballero, Nick Terabuch, David Mayberry, AJ Musselman, Brandon Zimmerman, Alan Robles, and Boomer Logan, the final driver to finish on that top 20 in the lead lap, as Matt Jonas is the final driver in the top 20 overall. Your final 9 drivers go as follows: Ross Cato, Jeff Figlin, Jacob Fife, and Jim Fife, both finishing 7 laps down, with John Steele, Nicholas Ward, Joe Yakes, Farrell Ryan, and Chris Edwards. Round out your 20 car field, and it looks like every driver at least made it to the halfway point. Great participation tonight. A preseason event. We still have one more preseason event in the Octane Series, and from there we get it started for both leagues to next week. Monday and Tuesday we will be live, and we have 2 great shows in preparation, and we hope that you enjoy both of them when we get around to it. So we're going to wrap up the broadcast here. How excited are we going into the next few weeks, because we're kicking things off in style on Monday and Tuesday nights? Integrity, sim racing done right.
I'm always excited for the start of the season. You can't not be. I mean, especially for some guys like me, I don't really spend too much time on iRacing other than doing leagues or some of the special events and things like that. So for me, it's exciting to kind of get back into it, and you know, it's fun. It's the league dynamic is more fun than it, in my opinion anyways, than just doing the official races with people you don't know and stuff like that. It feels like you're really working towards something, and there's guys that work all off season as well, just trying to hone their craft and get better and learn on the lessons that they picked up on from last season and try to go at it again with a fresh start, fresh mindset in the new year. And it's always fun to kind of see who's going to be the big players as the seasons get going. And we got a great group of cars, great group of drivers across 2 series. Both lineups are stacked. We've got great schedules for both series as well. The admin team has worked super, super hard in the off season to put together so many different things with sponsors and bringing you in as well. So it's been really exciting to see all this come together, and I'm really excited that we finally get to hit the go button and get everything underway.
Yeah, for all of us here at JTM, new place, new faces that we're racing around, and a little bit of a different lineup for JTM as well going into this year. Just a little more people to help out with the more minds the merrier, if you ask me. Just everybody has a little bit of different handling characteristics of what they like and just opinions on things. And I'm really excited to get the season started. Just like Thomas said, we all like racing, so just having an off season is just kind of boring. So it's always kind of a let's get in there and get started. So starting next week, it's going to be go time, and for quite a long season. So I'm excited to get it started.
And go time it will be. And for the Fireball Talks NASCAR team, we'll be back tomorrow night with the FORL Cup Series as we head to yet another exciting event. It will be at New Atlanta, and it's going to be a great one. And it is going to be the Cody Williams Design 150, so one of the longer races on the tour there. Hope you stick around for that one. Going to be a great race. NASCAR Next-Gen. So we're stacked up with Next-Gen races on Wednesday and Thursday as well. And we'll be back on Saturday after that for the Stock Car Racing League Redline Truck Series. So a lot to go on this week. We're going to begin stacking up all week long, all year long, with a lot of great races, and these guys on Mondays and Tuesdays going to be some of the best to watch. And what a race tonight was the final of the 2 media days, the Octane Series Clash for the Integrity Racing League. And I got to thank every single one of you for watching. This is David Kreutz alongside Thomas Bresty and Casey Shue. This is the crew for tonight's event. I got to thank them both for stopping by, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's presentation. Thank you all for watching. We hope you have, once again, a great night. We hope to see you whenever we are live once more on FTN.